I'm not building up the brand. I'm destroying the brand. Even if I got a bunch of views, I didn't materialize into any followers. On the contrary, if I get a video that gets 250,000 views, but I get 10, 15, 20,000 followers from that single video,
Yeah.
I'm fucking pumped. Because
Yes.
I know that video was potent. Not a lot of people necessarily saw it, but the people that saw it were the right people that actually resonated with Dan's message. Nobody talks about this. Nobody's actually gone to this level of brand, but I got those followers without exposing Dan's face to a bunch of strangers. And in the
Ah,
world of personal brand, where you're giving up your privacy for impact, you want to be very, very careful with how many views you get, how many facial impressions that you get. That's why we don't run ads. We don't do viral content that isn't about value. I care a lot about how many followers are we getting per piece of content, per impression.
oh, that was so good. I feel like that last couple of minutes is just golden. When you think of content as a business, what's your philosophy with what the actually important moving parts of that are?
I think number one is tying it directly to revenue. I think a lot of people forget that they can track whether a follower turns into a client very, very easily. And they want to hide behind this veil of like, hey, I'm building awareness, I'm building awareness. But at the end of the day, if you're building awareness and you're not getting people in the door or buying your shit, then you're not building a business. You're just making content. There's two ways that people can get in your world as, a lead, right? One is give me
Dude, I
one.
appreciate you taking time out for this. When I distill it down, this is the way that I see it, right? There is this thing that we call social media right now. It has tremendous power for us to be able to share a message and to be able to get people that don't know us to know us. There is
Yeah,
something that has to happen to be able to get people that don't know us to know us. There has to be something that has to happen for, therefore, know, like, and trust to get built, and then to be able to put into a sales pipeline of some degree of some sort so that there is a transaction made so we have customers and clients on the other end, right?
yeah,
The other thing that comes to me as well, which is I always want to be proud of the stuff that I put out into the world, right? And
yeah,
so where I see what brilliance that you and Dan do together is the quality is very high. There is a level of invention that's happening as well, such as like, what do we need to do to be at the cutting edge, to be at the front of the pack, and how do we lead rather than follow? And
yeah,
then there is a case of how does this actually become a business within itself? Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah, they actually monetize it, make money off of your audience. Well, yeah, provide enough value so that people would buy.
When you think of content as a business, what's your philosophy with what the actually important moving parts of that are?
I think number one is tying it directly to revenue. I think a lot of people forget that they can track whether a follower turns into a client very, very easily. And they want to hide behind this veil of like, hey, I'm building awareness, I'm building awareness. But at the end of the day, if you're building awareness and you're not getting people in the door or buying your shit, then you're not building a business. You're just making content. And I think that's the biggest thing that we did early on, like very, very early on when we decided to go pro and take it seriously, is that Dan was like, I will put my dollars and cents behind this if it ROIs. So show me where the ROI is. And that's when we, did the whole like every day we calculate how many followers we had on all platforms. And every day we calculate how much revenue comes in the door.
Mm.
And it is it's a very like caveman way of calculating things. And there's a lot of lagging indicators that you can't account for. But at the end of the day, if your revenue per follower added over a month, 3 months, 6 months or 12 months keeps going up, that means that you're doing a good job. That means that the people that are coming to your door are actually buying your shit. And if it's not, like if it's going down, if your revenue per follower is going down over time, then that means that you're not attracting the right people. And then you need to make an adjustment on your content, right? Where you're adding a bunch, let's say you're adding a lot of followers,
Yeah.
not necessarily turning into revenue.
So the way that I see a lot of this is a lot of people can get caught up with like attribution tracking, right? Where they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I can run an ad and they hit this landing page, they see this VSL, they book a call, they buy, and I've got this like clean attribution tracking. I
Yeah.
think there's a little bit of BS when it comes to that. And we do have to kind of step back and look at a holistic model and go, I'm running ads, I've got organic content. There's organic content on all of these different platforms. Where I think what you and Dan are doing so well, and I love that you kicked off with this, is simply a case of actually the caveman tracking is the best way to do it because from a let's not even say a business owner, let's say an investor. If I'm investing into a company and I want to say, hey, I can see that this is the output, such as I've got paid ads and I've got organic. I'm paying for my team to be able to produce or like to me the material. But this is the ROI of what's coming through from actual dollars going into my Stripe account. And these are the sales that are getting made. Why do you think people are not doing that?
I think it's because it almost sounds too easy, right? And a
Mm,
lot of people want to hide behind complexity and say that like, oh, I've got a fancy funnel and it does X, Y, Z. And I'm not saying that you don't double click and measure like, hey, where out of these people, where are most our clients coming from, right? And if it's Instagram, are we fully optimized on that platform? Like, I'm not saying to not double click on certain platforms and see where the clients come, but I think a lot of people hide behind complexity because it feels smart when you have a big fancy funnel and you're getting people in the door. But what people forget is a lot of times, like the things that are going to drive the most results is building a brand big enough that people get attracted to you, and then your ability to actually convert them into clients, right? Because there's a difference between first touch and last touch attribution. And a lot of people think that they're doing first touch, but they have no fucking idea where the first touch happened.
mm,
And like I personally, out of all the content that we made on our platforms, have no idea where the first touch was, right?
mm,
I can make assumptions, but I have no idea if they found me on Instagram first, if they found me on YouTube first, if they found us on Facebook and they went to YouTube, or they went to TikTok and they went to YouTube. All
mm.
I know is last touch attribution. And as much as we can distill down to like what made them take that action on last touch, right? That's when we start to see real results. That's when we start to be able to calculate where the person is coming from. That's when we implement lead magnets and get people in the door that way.
This is good. This is really good. I'll use an exact example then. So just had a call with new client signed on. So pays $10,000 to come through the first front end program, right?
Yeah.
Actually, fellow Canadian. And
Heck
he was
yeah.
actually like, hey, I've been following you for years. Like he was like, I don't even remember how I've come across you, but I know I've been following you for years, like from the fitness world days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then I was like, actually, so what got you to book in the call to then join us? And then he explained what that was. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So when you think about last touch attribution, double click on me. What is it that you're actually doing to find out, number one, what that last touch attribution is, and then how are you trying to like double down on that to then obviously optimize for it?
Love that question. There's so high level, there's two ways that people can get in your world as, a lead, right? One is you do what we call a hand raiser and you get them to raise their hand and say, I need help,
Mhm,
right? And that could be as direct as, hey, I'm opening up a coaching program. Are you interested? Right. And they reply coach or whatever.
mhm,
That's a hand raiser. The other way that people can get in your world as a quote unquote lead is that you collect them with a lead magnet, right? So you're like, hey, I've got this cool thing. You just have to give me your email, phone number, and I'll send it over for free.
mhm,
And that's how most people get into our world. Some of them get in through like, hand raiser. Some of them get in through a lead magnet. The big difference is the people coming in from the hand raiser are very, very high intent, right? So we don't need a ton of volume to get, X amount of qualified people in the door because they're very, very high intent. People with the lead magnet, they need a little bit more massaging, a little bit more nurturing. They get on a different email campaign that essentially like builds them into a perfect buyer.
yeah,
But they still come in our door through a lead magnet, right? And I think people forget that it's pretty easy to just collect emails
mhm,
if you have either something really cool,
mhm,
right, that they can essentially download for free just if they give you the email,
mhm,
or if you have a very, very well crafted hand raiser, right? And I have a template that I use that we use
mhm.
here in the company that combines, pain, where they're at, the unique mechanism that we use, and it kind of builds the gap between like who they are, who they want to be, and
Mhm.
gets them to reach out and raise their hand.
Oh, I love that. I love the methodical approach to actually breaking this down into like this is a brass tacks way that we are able to do this every day, every week, every month, and then obviously relate to sales on the end of it. There's one thing you said before that I think is really important that I don't want to skip over personally for myself. then I'm going to ask this question from a selfish point of view, but I also know anyone else that listens to this, there will be tremendous value behind it. And you said going pro, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I think it was in Huntington Beach I saw Dan, and I said to him, I was like, dude, why are you doing the content thing? Like, you've won. You've won. I've known Dan for years, built incredible businesses. Do you know what I mean? It was crushing it. I was like, what are you doing this for? His answer, paraphrasing, was something along the lines of like, it makes everything else easier. And I was like, huh. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, Dan's playing a different game. Dan's playing a bigger game. And I was like, this is super interesting and fascinating to me. And then when you said going pro, I feel like there is something really important behind what you just said, Sam, that I think a lot of people, and I will include myself in this, where I was like, deceiving myself and like telling myself a lie. And this came up originally. Do you know who Sabri Subi is?
Yeah. I know Sabri.
Yeah. Okay. So I was at this event in Melbourne a while ago, and Sabri was there speaking at this private event. And then I saw him say something else, and it was like, I think he called it like the 4 hour virus, right? Whereas like everyone's gotten caught up to be like, hey, like the 4 hour work week, where
Yeah.
everyone's trying to do the least amount of work possible and then hopefully get good results. I can see that is, and I bought into it, right? Fucking hand up, I bought into that for sure. But I feel like I've walked into a season of life now where I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go ham. I just feel like I'm getting started right now. So when you say going pro, Sam, what does that practically, tangibly mean? That you can look at other people, like you're a mountaintop. So when you see other mountaintops, what is it that you actually see and define that as in going pro?
100%. Great question. And I'll double click on the 4 hour work week because there's like there's a bell curve, right? It's like for me, buy back your time is the ultimate epitome of how to operate in life, right? And that's the philosophy that Dan came into the market with that obviously resonated with a lot of people and was a big reason why we're able to build the content up to where it is, right? And on one side, there's the hustle culture, right? Where people are working fucking 100-hour weeks but getting no results.
Yeah.
And then on this side, there's the 4 hour work week where people are getting decent results but working the least amount of hours,
Yes.
right? And there's the middle there where it's like, hey, you've got 40 hours in a week, you're gonna work. What are you working on? Right? And that was the philosophy that we had when we went pro. We're
Mm.
like, we are going to buy back our time, build in a way that is sustainable in the long run, but we're not gonna do the least amount of effort to get the most amount of results because that's what we did for 5 years. We were only shooting content for I think it was like 2 hours a month, right? So we're shooting like 8 videos in 2 hours, like 10-minute videos and posting them on YouTube and crossing our fingers and hoping they'd work, right? We did that for 5 years up until 2023 when we looked ourselves in the mirror and we're like, hey, we're not showing up to the level that we know we can. There's opportunity in the space. We have this really cool message that we can put out there. How can we not go to 100-hour weeks and burn out? Well, how can we make this in a sustainable way
Mm.
where Dan's only spending 3 hours a week making content, right? He spends 12 hours a week or 12 hours a month making content. And we're able to turn that 3 hours a week into 196 pieces of content every single week
Mhm.
because we turn pro. And what turning pro looks like tangibly is putting your dollars and time, your calendar behind the mission, right? Because obviously you want to tie it back to ROI, which is what we started this conversation with. But at the end of the day, if you want to get disproportionate results, you're going to have to make disproportionate bets. And we made big bets at first where we, got a studio, hired a bunch of editors, right? Hired a full-time videographer, I hired my assistant, right? We made some big bets early on that we were hoping that we knew was going to materialize into results if we actually pushed it forward, right? I got the most expensive consultants that you could find on all the platforms, right? I reached out to all the people with the masterminds. I figured out who was behind the scenes at other people's creative departments and I got access to them whether I needed to pay for their time or not, right? And that's the mindset of going pro. And it's like, yeah, we grinded for a period of time, but we didn't do it in a way that wasn't sustainable. But we 100% did not do the least amount of effort to get the result. We probably put in more effort than 99% of people out there.
Yes. I love that you said, and I think that is a message that is extremely important, especially the entrepreneurial space to take in, which is there is nothing wrong with stepping into a season or a chapter where I'm like, I'm going to go ham on this. And that's a
Yeah.
good thing. And I want to be, and you know what? I'm bullshitting myself to think I can create something truly miraculous and marvelous and leave something really well in this world if I'm not actually putting as you said, the effort, the time, and the money resources behind it as well.
Obviously it's a game of deploying it like the dollars efficiently, and that was like from the start. We weren't blind to the results, right? Like I was tied to an LER, right? Labor efficiency rate, where we're spending money, right? Is that necessarily contributing into top line revenue, right? So if I go hire an editor, for example, and I'm paying them anywhere from 50 to 60,000 a year, maybe hypothetically,
Mhm.
is that 50 to 60,000 dollars a year converting into top line revenue, right? And can we show that progress over time? And I think that's what people hide behind because they just want to, hire people, run a business, whatever it is, but they're not. There's a great book on this, Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree. They're not actually crunching the numbers down and looking at them holistically, but then also like double clicking on, hey, I'm going to spend $10,000 a month on a consultant. Can
Yeah.
I get a 4 to 10 times ROI on that? Right? Is that possible? Because if not, I wouldn't even hire that consultant in the first place.
Let's get super nitty gritty. What are the KPIs you think are most important to actually live and die by? Like what would be those KPIs? Maybe answer in two parts. What are the KPIs that you're like, this is the numbers that I care about the most? And what do you think would be a general broad strokes? What are the KPIs that you know the market should actually think about?
The biggest two lagging indicators that we look at is what we started this conversation with, which is followers to revenue, right? That's the biggest lagging indicators. That's what I look at every day. If we distill down, right? We distill it down on the media side. There's three on the media side. There's followers added per piece of content.
Yep.
So every like per piece of content, per video,
Ooh.
how many followers is that video giving me? And since I think it was 6 to 12 months ago, Instagram actually gives you that number. If you go look into the analytics, you'll see how many followers came from that specific piece of content. On a YouTube video, you can see exactly how many subscribers came from that specific video, right?
Yep.
And that this is really important for the third step, but the second step is view velocity, right? How fast is that video getting views? I care less about total views. I care more about momentum, right? Because I know if a video on YouTube, for example, is getting 4,000 views an hour, right? For us, that's, it's crushing it,
Yep.
then it's going to eventually be a 500,000 view video,
Yes.
right? I know if it keeps that pace up over, I don't know what the math is on that. I never do public math,
Yeah.
but over this amount of time, 30 to 60 days, it's going to hit 500,000 views, right?
Can I just
And
jump
then,
in super quick? Are
yeah,
you looking at velocity because that's a metric that you get faster feedback on? So rather than being like,
100%,
I've got to wait 30 days to see how the
100%.
video goes, I've got 24 to 36 hours to care about this thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the game too, because like on short form, you can't really do anything once you post a video. You can just adjust in retrospect. But when you post a YouTube video, you can change thumbnail, title. You can even trim the video. Sometimes we've gone to that extreme where it's like, hey, this part in the hook
Mhm.
doesn't serve the video. Let's just take it out.
Mhm.
So that's why we care about view velocity. And
Yeah.
the third part, right, of media is our view to follower ratio per piece of content, right? So this is an advanced metric that no one fucking talks about in the content space, but it's like, hey, if you get a million view video, but it only gets you 100 followers, was it a good video? What is that telling you about that video, right? For me, when I see a million view video that only got us 100 followers, I'm like, fuck,
Mm.
right? Because what that means is that a bunch of people saw Dan's face, facial recognition, but did not have a positive experience with Dan, right? So
Ooh.
I'm not building out the brand. I'm destroying the brand. Even if I got a bunch of views, I didn't materialize into any followers, right? And on the contrary, if I get a video that gets, let's call it 250,000 views,
Yeah.
but I get 10, 15, 20,000 followers from that single video,
Yeah.
I'm fucking pumped because
Yes.
I know that video was potent, right? That not a lot of people necessarily saw it, but the people that saw it were the right people that actually resonated with Dan's message, right? And I built his brand up by not, and this is what people forget, right? Nobody talks about this because like nobody's actually gone to this level of brand, but I got those followers without exposing Dan's face to a bunch of strangers, right? And in the
Uh,
world of personal brand where you're giving up, right, your privacy for impact, you want to be very, very careful with how many views you get, how many facial impressions that you get. That's why we don't run ads. That's why we don't do viral content that isn't about value. And that's why I care a lot about how many followers are we getting per piece of content per impression.
Oh, that was so good. I feel like that last couple of minutes is just golden. Break a belief in my head, right? There is, if I think of two different parts right now, there is I produce a piece of content because I want subscribers and followers, and there is I produce a piece of content because I want a client out of it. However, that's a lagging metric getting a client out of it, and I really want to think about, and my focus should be per piece of content, how many subscribers and followers am I getting from this? Because then they turn into a client because of the
Yeah.
product then built out after. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I build a content strategy just like an email list. And a
Yeah.
lot of people want to skip to getting married before even going on a date. And the more you can treat your content strategy like just getting people in the door and then nurturing them from there, the more you're going to get clients, right? And you make sure that you have a cadence where you go harvest, right? You go plant seeds, plant seeds, plant seeds, and then you have a cadence where you go harvest. So for us, every week we post the first type of lead capture, which is a hand raiser. We post a hand raiser every week where people raise their hand. They say, I need help. I need help. But those people have been following us for 6,
Yes.
10, 12 months, right? Where they landed on a video, followed Dan, got nurtured for 6 to 12 months, and then all of a sudden raised their hand for help. And I think that's what people forget when they're making a content strategy is that they want to skip to the end, but it's like, hey, no, like this is like an email list. It's going to take time to invest in. And that's why like some of those indicators are lagging, yes, but you still want to focus on them.
What is that ratio of give to take?
I mean, I'm always going to over optimize on giving as much as value as possible. I know like Gary wrote a great book on jab,
Yeah.
jab, jab,
Yeah.
right hook, right? Like you want to give at least, a couple pieces of positive experience, but I think on social it's even bigger than that. Like I think you need to give at least 10 to 15 jabs for a hook,
Mhm.
because jabs are so commoditized nowadays where everybody's giving value for free. Can you be the person that gives the most value for free, right? And that's why I don't know if you know Caleb Ralston, but he's a great mentor of mine.
Yeah.
That's why I love that he posted a 6-hour course on
Yeah.
YouTube, because in
Yeah.
his space, nobody was doing that. Everybody was selling the course, not building goodwill. And he's like, fuck it. I'm going to record the course. I'm going to spend all this money. I'm going to give it away for free because then I'm going to stand out. And I think that's what you have to do because that was 2025 jabs, right?
Yes.
And that's the right hook. And that right hook is going to land a lot harder and it's going to get clients in the door.
Yeah, I listened to a quick interview of Caleb, and he was like the amount of email, how much he was able to grow his email list just from that was just tremendous. I'm like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense. But I think we need a kick to the head sometimes to be like, you know what? Just put so much more effort in the value that you give out into the world. Uh, the karma will come back around, but obviously you need to be able to strategically engineer karma so it turns into clients. All right, this is spectacular. When it comes to everything that you see from Dan stuff, other people that you know that you're working with, what would be the what's working now on socials? Like, what's the new game that most people haven't even caught on to yet?
If you'd have asked me that 6 months ago, I would have said like trial reels and maybe like longer videos on YouTube.
Yep.
Um, that's changed since then. Like trial reels aren't as hot as it used to be. Arguably now shorter videos are performing better on YouTube. We posted two 60-second videos and they're our best performing videos in the last like 90 days.
Yep.
Um, what stays true, because I'm all about principles, like we'll talk about tactics
Yep.
sometimes here in the studio, but a lot of times we're talking about principles. What stays true is exactly what you said, is can you provide more value than anybody else in the space
Mm.
on a consistent basis that actually gets eyeballs, right? So what that looks like is taking whatever, let's say like a piece of content, let's say how to grow your business in 90 days, right? How to grow your business past 100K a month in 90 days. A lot of people have made that video, right? A lot of people sound the same. How can you
Hmm.
specifically
Hmm.
say something that what I call is a contrarian take that would completely uh, alienate other people's opinions and put yourself in a market of one,
Yes.
right? Because I think that's the big thing that we did when we came in with the buy back your time swing in 2023. It's like, hey, if you want to grow a business, your life doesn't have to actually suck while you do it because you can just buy back your time and have more time So as your business scales, you're actually more free,
Mhm.
right? And in a world where everybody was either talking about hustle culture or the 4 hour work week, Dan came right in the middle and said, hey, you can actually do both, right? And actually, if you want to hustle, you can hustle on the things that actually light you up. And that's what you have to do in the market, right? Like in today's world, content is the ultimate reflection of every creator out there. And the more you can have contrarian takes and have unique mechanisms that get outcomes and share those unique mechanisms in your content, then people are going to gravitate towards you.
Mm.
That's what you see the top creators do today. Like there's no secret sauce, there's no magic strategy. It's coming into the market hot and heavy, contrarian takes, and unique mechanisms to get there. And most of the stuff's already been said, right? Like the
Yeah.
top, point at me the top five creators in the space right now, I can point back Ray Dalio or a fucking Warren Buffett or
Con-
Churchill.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Confucius, Marcus Aurelius. Someone's
yeah.
already said it
That
before.
says the exact same thing. So how can you package it in a way that's unique to you, and actually provides value to people? And I'll even double click on that. Like this last thing is going to separate you from everybody else. And it's one thing that I learned from Caleb is how can you get them to take their first step into action that would get them a result?
Mm.
So the whole point of making content isn't just to get eyeballs, it's to get people results in advance. What I loved about Caleb's 6 hours course is that he shared a workbook that you could download that, wink, wink, he would get your email and your SMS, so you get the lead. But that workbook took you one step closer to taking action, right? Because he said in the video, he literally said in the video, download the workbook so that it's easier for you to take action on my advice and you're able to get results faster, right? Because the whole point of making content is to actually make people have a change in perspective that would get them closer to making a decision to take action. Because
Mm.
99% of people consuming shit online right now aren't actually taking action, right? So what they need is somebody to hold their hand and say like, hey, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. Take the leap of faith and do the actions that would get the results. And then you'll stand in a market of one.
What I'm hearing, Sam, is let's say I'll use the analogy if we have 4 hours to chop down a tree, three of them are going to be sharpening the axe. That sharpening the axe in this situation is actually doing the thinking and the working out what is my contrarian take so that I am saying something different from the noise that everything else is out there, and how am I able to do that in a way that actually I understand what are the milestones that my market needs to move through and how do I help them actually achieve that next milestone through taking action. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And doubling down on your expertise, your personal story, because that's the ultimate advantage in today's world.
Do you have any like insights, advice when you see other creators, businesses, when it comes to how do you best articulate and craft someone's story so that it is able to attract and build trust?
It's a fucking great question. So how to help people tell better stories about themselves? I think a lot of people undersell themselves. I think a lot of people hide behind, well, that's just me. Like nobody will resonate. That's not that impressive. I've had a lot of people have that challenge, right? And I think the more you can be open and honest about like what you did and who you are, people are going to gravitate towards it. And guess what? Like if you've gotten an outcome that most people hasn't, and I bet that's most people listening to this right now, that's impressive. And you don't have to have 250 million, $500 million in liquid cash to talk about any tactic that you figured out, right? And it's tough because you see these creators that have blown up really quick and they're throwing out those numbers. And a lot of times that's not the reason why they actually blew up. It was all the micro proof that they shared along the way,
Mhm.
right? And you'll see in a lot of our recent videos, we're using a lot more micro proof and a lot more content aligned proof because that's what actually resonates with people's in the audience, right? So let's say we're making a video about how to get customers with AI, right? Dan's not going to say, here's how to get more customers with AI because I'm a $100 million CEO.
Yes.
It's here's how to get more customers with AI because in all my AI companies today, every single day we close around 12 to 25 people using AI calls. Super specific proof. And through that, I was able to generate over 120K in net new revenue across my companies, right? Not that impressive when you think about it, but it's distilled down to like one single mechanism in the business. So I think that's the biggest thing is to actually be open and honest about your personal stories, your expertise, but then also share in a way that's content aligned. Because I see a lot of people make content out there where they give a promise in a video and their proof is completely off from what they promised in
Yes.
the video.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so I only realized this when I was actually just in Bali just before, Sam. So you can kick me in the shin next time you see me for this for sure. Yeah. I realized I was like, my content that I've been sharing has really only been about one business, which is Rainmakers, my main company, right?
Yeah,
However, I actually have five businesses, right? And
yeah,
so there's the IV and blood clinic, there's a property business there's another coaching business. And I was like, holy shit, I've not talked about any of this other stuff. And so therefore I've been talking about this small slice of the pie and missing out on so much of my actual authenticity of like what is it that I'm doing. And like I wasn't even perceiving myself as when it came to that as well. I think my question is, how would you help me stop digging my fucking head in the sand and then actually saying the stuff that truly tells my story and
yeah,
to best help people that way? Like from what you know of me,
100%.
back to your
Yeah,
mates, what is
yeah,
it that you see there?
yeah, 100%. I think there's a few things. The mental model for me
Mm,
is if you have a story and you're sharing the same story over and over again, people are gonna get bored, right? If you go to a party and you're talking to someone and all he talks about is one thing, no depth, just well, I guess a lot of depth, but no width, right? It's just deep. Talks about I don't know
crypto. He's just
lighting,
talking
yeah,
crypto the
crypto.
whole
Maybe
time.
yeah, crypto's a perfect example because I have a lot of people that go to parties and all they talk about is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If he just talks about crypto for an hour, you're gonna get fucking bored, right? The best content creators in the world, and people have opinions about Joe Rogan, but what I admire about him
Yeah.
is that he has 5 to 20,000 content buckets, right? Where he talks about a lot of stuff, different things that are aligned to who he personally is, so that people come back for more, right? Because there's dimensions to his character. And what I encourage people to do when they have multiple businesses, just like you, is figure out what are the core stories, what are the core frameworks, what are the core value that you can share with your audience out of all your companies, right? And obviously you want to focus on a few,
Mm,
but you'll notice that our content strategy is very calculated
mm,
to position Dan as the AI expert, shine light on that, to
mm,
talk about his business acumen, to talk about some of the relationship stuff that he's doing, with his kids. He's world schooling his kids, he's traveling around the world. He has a beautiful relationship with his wife, Renee.
mm.
And then also some of the mindset stuff, right? Like even just doing Ironmans, like doing hard things, training in the gym, that we want to shine light on, right? And if we only shine light on his business acumen, or let's say only the AI stuff, then a lot more people wouldn't buy because they don't trust him as a human,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The more you can share, like let's say I'm interested in your fitness coaching, but and then I see you share about your IV clinic, I'm
Yep.
going to be more inclined to buy from you, not less, because I'm like, this guy understands the full compass of health,
Yep.
right? Not just the tiny little nutrition stuff, right? The
Yep.
full fucking picture, right? So I'm going to go hire this guy instead of Bobby Joe over here that only talks about fitness and nutrition, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mate, dude, that makes bloody perfect sense.
Now, I'll say this, like we have in our coaching program at Elite, we have around 50% women.
Yep.
And the only reason that's the case is because Dan shares a lot about his relationship with Renee, and
Yes.
that builds trust with our female audience. Because
Yes.
only
Yes.
30% of our audience on Instagram is female, and a lot of our clients came from, Instagram, they're buyers.
What have you learned about the first 3 to 5 seconds of a piece of content? Like, what is actually an effective hook? Like, what is actually working when it comes to getting someone to stop scrolling and get them on that slippery slide that then gets them to continue watching a piece of content?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few pieces, like there's a couple, I'll give you like the hook frameworks because I think that's a really good mental model to think about.
Yep.
And the first one is literally what we talked about, which is the contrarian hook, like the contrarian hook, right? Contrarian
Yep.
reframe. So what that sounds like is, business isn't about doing more, it's about doing less, right? Contrarian reframe, super simple. And you could take it to the extreme and say like, I don't think you should actually uh work 40 hours a week,
Yep.
right? Something like that, right? That's going to hook people in because they want to hear why.
Yep.
Second one is a framework hook, and I've seen this work well, less so these days, but back in the day when we used to do, Dan on stage, and that kind of pulls people in, is, I have this thing called the 1-3-1 rule, where I have these 5 rules that, I apply to my life, whether it's in business, personal, or finance. And that what that does is creates intrigue, right? Same thing. The next one is a labeling hook, and I think this is the most advanced one that I use all the time. Whenever I'm outlining a video, and it's if you want X or if you're X, don't do or do Y,
Mhm.
right? So if you're in your 20s, don't go to the club and party every weekend, right? Label.
Mhm.
And when you label people, in your 20s is a bad example because that actually isolates the physical attribute. But if you do it with a mental attribute, it's even better. So if you say like if you're ambitious
Mhm.
but lazy, don't block your time, for example, right? What that does is it labels people like I'm ambitious and I'm lazy.
Yes.
I'm gonna listen to this guy.
Yeah.
There's 3 more. The next one is a story lead-in, which is basically my brother, my mom, my dad, and then you go into a story. The next one is an authority hook. So a lot of like borrowed credibility happens on Instagram. So you'll see a lot of people talk about like Dan Martell, Alex Hormozy,
Yeah.
Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs always says, right? And then the last one is just a curiosity gap. So it's like, did you know that X? Did you know that Y? Did you know that? Like it's kind of like more reporting one that we don't use very often, honestly.
Okay.
But the top ones for me are contrarian,
Yeah.
reframe, like if you're not doing X, do Y,
Yeah.
and the labeling hook.
Labeling.
Because those two are gonna get you the most results.
So, quickest next step to milestone right now would be, okay, great. I want you to think up what are the top 20 contrarian points of view that you have in your marketplace right now. And I want you to take these top two hooks. So therefore you've got 20 pieces of content right now in which you can go and shoot something and then be able to actually get moving from there. Would that be a next step?
100%. I would even reduce the volume down to like do 5 and test it and then readjust. Because I think a lot of
Oh,
people themselves
yeah,
and
yeah.
do a lot of volume before actually knowing what works.
Amazing. Okay, so someone's got bugger all followers, right? Would we say, so I'm thinking of a paid ad strategy right now. I could
Yeah,
literally execute this right today after this call, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to think of 3 contrarian topics. I've got 2 different hooks for each. I've got 6. I'm going to shoot a bunch of content. I might even not even shoot it. I might write a post and have a static image behind it. I'm going to run 6
yeah.
ads and test which one's going to be the winner for it, right? Do you guys use paid at all?
I do paid for other like I work with Dan's portfolio companies, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty familiar with paid, but in like Martell Media itself, we don't do paid
Can I ask
for
why?
Dan's coaching. Yeah.
Because it's not
But like,
needed.
no, it's not. Yeah, we turned off ads, yeah, a couple of years ago when we saw the organic going up, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
So with the companies that you run paid with, how do you think of paid and organic being a
yeah,
symbiotic machine together?
yeah. I mean, there's a couple companies that we do them together, and they're very intertwined. And I think the biggest thing is like whenever you run an ad, especially a straight for the jugular ad,
Yeah.
you're kind of reducing goodwill with the market. So you want to make sure that you're either doing it in seasons around launches
Yeah.
or that you're doing it like very, very low volume, right? Like you don't want to crank ads and lose all your goodwill if you don't have a good reason to do it. And you see that like best example is Alex Hormozy's book launch, right? He went hard in the paint, spent $6 million on ads in like 8 weeks, 6 weeks. But that was a compressed time frame
Yeah.
where everybody saw his ads in 6 weeks, and then he cashed in, right? Spent the 6 million, made a like 100 something on the book launch, but he didn't scrape away all that goodwill because he only ran the ads for 6 weeks,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest strategy, if you do have an organic audience and you want to go start running ads, without losing all that goodwill is do it around a launch, do it for a reason. Don't just do it every day for no reason. For other companies that maybe necessarily don't have a big audience, but they want to run ads, right? And that's, how they make most of their money. And I work with a couple of companies in Dan's portfolio where that's the case.
Mhm.
We have an ad strategy where it's give first, then ask. So a lot of times we're running ads to lead magnets,
Mhm.
low ticket offers, book funnels, or sometimes we do retargeting, straight for the jugular ads,
Yeah.
but we never do like a broad ad with like, hey, if you want coaching, buy my shit. We always try to give value first, and then
Yeah.
people fall in our funnels and we market to them that way.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, 2 questions left because we're coming over time and I really appreciate this. Everything vanishes. You got one platform to focus on. Which one would you focus on now?
Fuck, that's tough, dude. Yeah. So in my head, I'm between Instagram and YouTube. Um, man,
Is the correct question, how do you best do YouTube and Instagram at the same time?
yeah, yeah. But like, if I only had one,
Mm,
I would go. If I wanted, it depends on my goals. If I was doing it for long-term brand building, I would go all in on YouTube.
mhm.
The problem with YouTube is the monetization strategy, especially with if you don't like you don't have DMs, so you can't just
Yeah,
like message your followers. You have to like get them in your funnels, lead magnet strategy, all that stuff.
yeah,
Instagram, like super popcorn content,
yeah,
not really building the brand long term. Yeah, in a way, but not as much as YouTube,
yeah,
but very, very monetizable. So if I was starting from zero and I'm like, hey, I want to make money today on social media, I would go all in on Instagram
yeah,
and I would have a DM funnel.
yeah.
If I just was doing it for brand reach and reputation, I would go all in on YouTube. And I think that's the move. Like, depending on what your goal is as a business owner, I wouldn't try to focus on seven different platforms. I would just go in all in on one.
I was about to say, I was going to ask two questions, but I'm going to ask 2.5 questions. How do you use Instagram and YouTube together? Like if it's like, but am I asking that question because I'm trying to like have the cake and eat it too? And that's the incorrect way.
I mean, for us, like we did use both for like a season at a time, and you'll see where it changed.
Yeah,
All our traffic coming in from YouTube was going into Instagram as our conversion tool. On YouTube specifically, Dan was like, "Hey, if you want access to this lead magnet, right, this cool EA playbook, just message me YouTube EA on Instagram, and I'll send it over."
yeah,
So we were sending all our leads over to Instagram as a conversion tool. But then obviously, like as a business matures, we want to have better tracking. We want to diversify our risk.
yeah.
So we went back to, traditional marketing funnels where, you have a link, you click on the link, you get the resource. And that's like, as a philosophy, a better strategy. Because if not, then you're just, spraying, praying,
Okay.
shooting at the wall, see what sticks.
All right. What's the question nobody ever asks you about this stuff, but they should?
Well, organic content as a whole, I'd probably say for my specific, like where I'm at today,
Hmm.
what would be your advice? Like, I think a lot of people want to skip to the end and they're like, how do you do that today? But when we started, it was me, Dan, and his assistant, Ann, right? And we just fucking attacked the problem, right? And I hired editors and like I wasn't paying my editors, I wasn't paying them a shit ton of money, right? They were there for the mission and the goals. And we were very efficient with, some of the stuff that we were doing, and very scrappy. And I think a lot of people forget that like you don't start off, having a 15-person media team, and you shouldn't ask about. A lot of people ask me about, who does your emails,
Yeah.
and they should be more worried about like, hey, when you were starting off, when you were a team of three, four, 5 people, what did that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's stages to success, and I think that's the question that people don't really ask.
So if someone's like, all right, I'm starting pretty low, who's the first two hires that you think are the most beneficial then?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's as a coach, like I would follow Dan's replacement ladder. So it goes EA first,
Yeah.
executive assistant. Why EA takes the most amount of bullshit work off your plate so you can focus on the shit that actually matters. So email, inbox, and then calendar, and essentially you hire a babysitter, right? And I have a great EA, Alexa, and she does wonders. And the big reason why I love having her around is because when I don't do shit, I'll hear about it, right? Because she's like she keeps me wrangled, right? And if she puts something in my calendar and I don't show up, I don't do it, then it's all on me, right? And I think having somebody else have access to your full calendar and be right there over your shoulder will force you to do the work that actually matters. And that's probably increased my productivity personally, 30 to 50% over the last 2 years. And then the second hire I would say is some sort of, if you're just starting off, some sort of delivery person. So delivering for your clients. And then if we're just talking about content, I would go hire, some sort of marketing media person that you can work with, videographer that you can work through.
So, okay,
Um,
super
yeah.
selfish question then, right? Build in-house or outsource?
I think for heads of departments, like especially if you're starting off, your first like 3 to 5 hires should be in-house. But then after that, like, you can do contractors.
Yeah.
I've hired agencies with contractors. Like there's a real strategy of doing that.
Yeah.
But eventually it's just like we said earlier, there's a bell curve. Like eventually there's a point of diminishing returns where you have, a team of fucking 20 contractors and nobody's getting anything done. And that's the point where you want to start bringing roles back in house, right? Because what you buy with contractors and agencies is expertise. What you don't buy is, efficiency, right? Because you're losing a lot on productivity and you're also losing a lot on the actual cost of the work, right? Because they're going to charge a premium um than if you had a full-time employee. But yeah, your job is to go like hire the people, then get the contractors, the consultants, the agencies, then after a certain point phase them out
And
and then
bring it
bring
back in.
full-time people in.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was last time we were together, you showed me this spreadsheet of like all the different phases of growing like a media team out, and you had thought that through so meticulously. I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. Sam, you are an awesome dude. I love being mates with you. I appreciate you taking the time for this. I'm looking forward to our next leg session later this year together, dude.
Yeah, bro,
Um,
we'll hang out.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
Appreciate you, boss. This was cool. This was a fun pod.
Well, dude, I purely did it because you are so goddamn good at what you do. And I am so pumped to see what unfolds. Obviously, I mean, with yourself and Dan together, but also with you and everything that's going to be coming forward. So awesome, dude. Really bloody good.
Heck yeah.
All right, that's it for today. And if this did hit home for you today, and if you are building a business that's meant to give you more money and more freedom, then I want you to be able to do two things before you go. One, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because you're a bummer if you missed out on everything else to come. Number two, grab the link in the description and be able to book in your free demo so you can see the exact systems, the exact process, and you can be able to install it inside of your business. Because remember, this channel is for coaches and creators who want a daily income, simple systems, and to be able to take time off. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.